The sun was dipping low over San Diego, painting the horizon in streaks of gold and crimson. The evening breeze carried with it the salty tang of the Pacific, brushing against the sidewalks where families laughed, couples strolled, and life unfolded with casual ease. But for Miguel Alvarez, each step home was a quiet test of trust. Trust in his cane, trust in his ears, and above all, trust in the sturdy little dog trotting faithfully by his side. Her name was Coco. Coco wasn't the picture most people imagined when they thought of a guide. She wasn't towering like a German shepherd, nor sleek like a Labrador. She was compact, muscular, with round dark eyes that shimmered like polished marbles and ears that stood tall, always listening, always alert. To strangers, she was cute, maybe even comical with her snub nose and waddling gait. But to Miguel, she was everything. Their bond was born not of convenience, but of necessity, shaped over years of shared moments. Coco curling at his feet during stormy nights, her tiny paws pressing gently against his chest when nightmares woke him, her determined pull on the leash when traffic snarled or strangers brushed too close. She wasn't just a dog. She was his guardian, his compass, his pulse in a world gone dark. Still, doubt often hovered in the air like an unspoken challenge. On more than one occasion, people stopped Miguel on the street and asked, why not a bigger dog, a proper guide dog? Miguel would smile, patient and calm, and run his fingers across Coco's soft, warm fur. Because she sees me, he would answer simply. And Coco, as if she understood, would press her stout body closer to his leg, protective, defiant. That night, as they left the little cafe on the corner, the city's rhythm seemed to quicken. Cars whispered past in sleek electric silence. Skateboards rattled across concrete, and the voices of strangers rose and fell in a symphony of life Miguel couldn't fully interpret. He gripped his cane, listening, counting the familiar steps. Coco padded beside him, leash slack but presence firm, like an anchor. Yet, beneath the calm of routine, there was something else. A flicker of unease. Coco's ears pricked higher than usual, swiveling at every hum, every vibration. Her little paws moved with brisk precision, but her breathing was quick, shallow, like a drummer marking time before a storm. Miguel couldn't see it, the way her eyes darted, the tension rippling through her body, but he could feel it through the leash, a taut line that carried her warning straight into his hand. And in that fleeting moment, Miguel hesitated. He didn't know why. He only knew that Coco was telling him something, silently, urgently. The city lights flickered above. The crosswalk signal chirped its safe passage. And yet Coco stood still. Miguel whispered softly, "What is it, girl?" The answer was not in words, but in the growing thrum of her heartbeat, pressing through the leash, foreshadowing that tonight, on these familiar streets, the ordinary was about to give way to something far more dangerous and far more extraordinary. The hum of the city grew sharper as Miguel reached the corner of Fifth and Laurel, a place he knew by memory, by rhythm, by sound. His cane clicked against the curb as the crosswalk chirped, beckoning him forward. It was the same signal he had trusted for years, the same reassuring beep that told him the world had paused, that it was safe to move. But Coco didn't move. Her paws dug into the concrete, her little body stiff as stone. Miguel frowned and gave a gentle tug on the leash. "Come on, girl," he murmured, his voice soft, coaxing. Normally, Coco responded instantly, a well-trained partner, eager to obey. Tonight, she resisted. The leash grew taut between them, vibrating with her refusal. To Miguel, the leash was more than rope and clasp. It was a lifeline. Every twitch, every pause, every pull carried meaning. And tonight, Coco's message was clear. Wait. Around them, the city pulsed with 1,000 distractions. A skateboard rattled past, its wheels shrieking. A child laughed as a parent hurried him along. Somewhere, a horn blared impatiently. But beneath all those sounds was something Miguel could not hear. The faint, nearly imperceptible whir of an electric car, gliding through the intersection like a predator in the dark. Coco heard it. Coco felt it. Her ears tilted, her chest rising in quick bursts as the danger drew near. She growled low, a sound that rarely escaped her, a sound Miguel had learned to take seriously. Miguel's heart quickened. He trusted her instincts, but his human logic argued back. The crosswalk signal said go. His internal map said this was safe. His mind clung to routine, but his hand, trembling against the leash, felt Coco's warning loud and clear. "Easy, Coco," he whispered, kneeling slightly, his hand brushing the silky fur on her neck. Her muscles quivered beneath his touch, coiled like springs ready to snap. For a moment, he hesitated, half a step from the street, one decision away from fate. Then it came. The air shifted. A sudden, rushing presence brushed his senses, a whisper of movement far too close, far too fast. Miguel's ears caught it too late. A car, nearly silent but deadly swift, surged into the intersection. Its headlights flashed across Coco's dark eyes, and in that instant she understood. Coco lunged backward, a sudden explosion of power from her compact frame. The leash yanked against Miguel's wrist with shocking force, nearly tearing the cane from his hand. He stumbled, heart slamming in his chest, pulled away from the street just as the car shot past, so close he could feel the wind peel across his skin. A gasp erupted from someone nearby. A voice, trembling with shock, cried out, "Oh my God, your dog just saved your life." Miguel's breath came ragged, chest heaving, mind reeling. He clutched Coco's harness, kneeling in the blur of sounds, trying to piece together what had just happened. Coco barked once, sharp, defiant, resolute, as though to banish the danger from the night. And for the first time, Miguel realized his little French Bulldog had just stood between him and death. Time seemed to shatter into fragments. Miguel crouched on the curb, his chest heaving, his hand clutching Coco's harness as if it were the only real thing in the world. His ears rang with the soundless roar of what had almost happened. The electric car's rush, gone as quickly as it had come, leaving only silence and disbelief in its wake. "Senor, are you all right?" A woman's voice cried from somewhere nearby. Another voice, a young man's, shook with adrenaline. "That dog, man, that dog just saved you." Miguel didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat was dry, his tongue heavy, his heart beating so loud he swore the whole street could hear it. All he knew was Coco, her body pressed against his leg, trembling, yet proud, chest puffed with a strength that belied her size. He slid his hand along her back, feeling the rapid thrum of her heartbeat beneath her sleek coat. "Coco," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Mi Nina Valiente, what did you just do?" Coco's response was not words but a bark, short, fierce, alive. Her eyes, wide and glistening, locked on the space where danger had been. She stood like a sentinel, a creature far larger than her small frame suggested, as though daring the night to try again. Miguel's knees weakened. If not for Coco's sudden pull, he would have stepped into the street. He would have never heard the car until it was too late. A single misstep, a single blind trust in the rhythm of the world, and his story would have ended here. The realization struck him like a cold wave. Coco had seen what he could not. She had known. She had chosen in an instant to defy training, to resist command, to save his life. Tears blurred his unseeing eyes, hot and unstoppable. He lowered himself fully onto the pavement, ignoring the crowd gathering, ignoring the murmurs of shock. He wrapped his arms around Coco, burying his face against her warm, wrinkled body. She smelled faintly of the cafe's buttered toast, of the dust from their walk, of home. The little dog licked his cheek with urgent devotion, tail thumping against his chest as if to reassure him. "You are safe. You are mine. I will never let you go." Gasps and applause rippled through the small crowd. Someone clapped softly, reverently, as though in church. A child's voice piped up, "Mommy, that dog is superhero." Miguel smiled through his tears, pressing his forehead to Coco's. "Superhero," he murmured. "Si mi heroina pequeña." The streetlight above changed. The crosswalk's chirp reset, But for Miguel, the world had already shifted. The line between life and death had been razor thin, and Coco, his stubborn, small, underestimated French Bulldog, had been the one to pull him back across it. In that instant, Miguel didn't just feel gratitude. He felt awe, awed her courage, awed their bond, awed the miracle of still being here, still breathing, because of the dog who saw for him when sight had failed. And in his heart, Miguel knew this was no ordinary evening walk. This was the night Coco had become eternal. The news traveled faster than Miguel could have imagined. By the next morning, what began as gas on a San Diego sidewalk had become a story on local radio, then a headline on the evening news. Little dog, big hero, French Bulldog saves blind man's life. Neighbors Miguel had only exchanged polite greetings with now stopped him in the street. Children rushed up to pet Coco, their voices breathless with excitement. "She's the dog from the news," they cried, eyes wide as though they were meeting a celebrity. Coco, basking in the attention, tilted her head proudly, ears high, her snub nose wiggling with delight. Reporters called, eager to capture the moment, their cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. They wanted details, sound bites, proof of bravery. Miguel, overwhelmed but patient, gave them the only truth that mattered. Standing tall, one hand resting firmly on Coco's back, he said, "She is not just my dog. She is my eyes, my protector, my heart. She saved my life because she loves me, and because I trust her with mine." The crowd fell quiet at those words. Coco, sensing the gravity of the moment, pressed closer to Miguel's leg, her round eyes scanning the faces, alert as ever. But for all the public attention, the true weight of what had happened was felt in private. At home, in the small apartment where Miguel and Coco lived, the world seemed different now. Miguel found himself reaching for her more often, his hand brushing her back when he walked, his fingers scratching her ears with deeper gratitude, his voice softer when he whispered her name. Every sound of her paws across the floor, every sigh as she curled against him at night, carried new meaning. They weren't just ordinary gestures anymore. They were reminders of that single, impossible moment when Coco had chosen to defy the world to save him. Miguel sometimes replayed it in his mind, the sudden tug, the stumble backward, the wind of the car's passage. Each time, his chest tightened with what-ifs. Each time, he reached down, stroked Coco's fur, and whispered, "Gracias, mi nina." Thank you. In the weeks that followed, people continued to celebrate Coco, calling her a miracle, a hero, a wonder. But Miguel knew the truth was simpler, deeper. Coco had done what she always did. She had watched over him. She had loved him fiercely, without hesitation, without doubt. One evening, as the sun sank once again into the Pacific, Miguel sat on a bench overlooking the glowing horizon. Coco nestled against his side, her warm body pressed close. He smiled into the wind, a tear slipping down his cheek, not from fear this time, but from gratitude. "People see you as a hero now," he murmured, his hand resting gently on her back. "But to me, you've always been one." Coco let out a soft grunt, tail thumping against the bench, as if she understood. And in that quiet moment, man and dog sat together, bathed in the fading light, bound by a love so strong it had turned an ordinary evening walk into a story that would live forever. If you love your dog so much, leave a heart and tell us what dog you own in the comment section and how much he or she means to you. Like, subscribe, and